quick things before we start with the guided notes. Okay, so what is a system of equations? Maybe start with how many equations do we have when we solve systems?
1, 2.
2, right? We have 2. 2 is how many we're doing, but in general, a system is when you have 2 or more. Okay, we're not doing or more. We're going to stick with 2. So it's a set of 2 or more linear equations, and they use the same variables. How many variables do we usually have to solve for? Right, the same number of equations we have, 2. We usually call them x and y, but you can call the variables anything you want. X and y is the most common because we started out with graphing, and x and y are the letters you use when you graph. What are the names of the 2 methods we learned last week to solve systems? I think I might have already said one of them earlier. Remember the names? Yep.
Substitution.
Yep, substitution. That's what we spent most of the week on, at least Tuesday and Wednesday. And does anybody remember the first method we learned? It's a little harder to do this method because you have to, it's more of a visual method.
Graphing.
Graphing, yeah. So we did graphing. Remember, the downside with graphing is if they don't cross at a nice spot, it's kind of hard to figure out the answer. All right. So now, what when we did the graphing, or when we did graphing, how did you have to get your equation? You had to make sure that it was set up in what format? Yeah.
Y equals mx plus b.
Yep. When we did graphing, it always had to be y equals mx plus b. Okay, this week, it's not going to look like y equals mx plus b. It's going to look more like these equations right here. It's going to have a number with x, a number with y, and then just a number by itself on the other side. That's how our problems are pretty much going to look. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at our guided notes. Okay, does everybody have the guided notes? Okay. All right, so the method we're going to learn this week is elimination. Okay, this is really the best method to use because it's the easiest one when the problems get more complicated. Okay, graphing, we can't even really think about that when the problems get more complicated because now you have to think about not 2-dimensional graphing, but 3D graphing. That's really complicated, especially by hand. You can't really do it. Substitution is okay when they get more complicated, but it still is, it can get kind of lengthy. Elimination is a nice way that basically organizes your steps. No matter how many variables you have, it can take longer, but at least your steps are really, really organized. Okay, so that's what elimination will help you to do. Really organize how you solve the problem. All right, so let's see. On the guided notes, I think you guys have a spot that says something about the goal. Okay, and it says the goal of solving systems by elimination is, and you guys have to write down what's underlined in bold. We're going to add 2 equations together, and we're going to hope that we can cancel out a variable. Let me show you an example of 2 equations you could add together, and the variables would cancel out. Let's see. 2x plus 3y equals 5. And let's do something like 3x. Actually, not too many 3's. Let's do 6x minus 3y equals 11. Okay, so first, let's look at these equations. Are the x's lined up in the first column?
Yes.
Yes. So we get x's lined up in the first column. Are the y's lined up in the second column? Yep. And on the other side of the equal sign, is it just numbers? Yes. So let's add these two equations together and see what happens. Okay, so if we add them up, what's 2x plus 6x? 8x. And we can add those together because they're like terms. So 8x. What's 3y minus 3y? 0. These cancel out.
So you just have y.
You have 0y. There's no y's left because you have 3y, take away 3y. That's gone. So there's no more y's. And then we also have to add the numbers on the other side. What's 5 plus 11? 16. So now you have the equation 8x equals 16. And that's very similar to something we did in the lemma. How would you get x by itself there?
Divide by 8.
Yeah, divide both sides by 8. And that would mean x equals how much?
2.
2. That's how you solve a problem with elimination. The goal every time is you have to have one number and another number that are opposites, like 3, negative 3, 5, negative 5. If they give you a problem where the numbers are already opposites, 2, negative 2, that's perfect. They're going to eliminate each other automatically. If they don't give you something like that, we need to fix it so we have that. And that's what we're going to learn this week. But we're going to start out with ones where they give you a number in the top and then the opposite of that number in the bottom so that one of the letters always cancels out. So before we try to cancel out any letters, we need to make sure that our equations are set up in this format. Okay, you're going to have the x, then you're going to have either a plus or a minus. It could be either one. Okay, in this case, it was a plus. So the x, then a plus or a minus, then you're going to have the y, then you're going to have an equals, and then you're going to have a number. That's exactly how both of those equations were set up. Okay, here's another example where that is set up correct. You've got the number with x, a plus or a minus, something with y, and then equals 5. Now, this time there's no number in front of y. So what number is always in front of a letter if it's not written?
1.
Yeah, it's like there's a 1 there, so you could put a 1. Just one y. You don't have to put the 1, but it is one y. Okay, so when it says your equations are set up in this format, that's the format you want to write down. Okay, if they're not in that format, we need to fix it so that they are in that format. All right, so when we solve by elimination, we're going to look for 3 things, and I think you guys already have that all written, in both equations. And those are the 3 things you want to write down. Same number, same letter, opposite signs, or different signs. One positive, one negative. So I'm going to make up another one. I'm not going to solve this one. So if we look at these 2 equations, what we'd be looking for is, do you see 2 things that have the same number and the same letter and opposite signs? Anyone think they see that? Look for the 2 things that have the same letter, same number, but different signs.
The x's.
Yeah, the x's. The top one is what?
Positive.
positive 2x in the bottom one, negative 2x. So they each have the same number, they have the same letter, but one of them's a positive, one of them's a negative. That's exactly what you need to have happen when you're solving with elimination. If you had something like this, 18 negative x, do those have two things with the same letter, same number, and opposite signs? No. This is kind of a little bit ahead of what we're going to do. Maybe we'll get to something like that on Wednesday. All right. That one's a little harder because you don't have same letter, same number, opposite signs. We need to fix it so we do have them. And we'll talk about how to do that on Wednesday. All right, so we're going to look at 5 different situations for elimination. Okay, you don't have to write this part down. All right. So today we're going to look at, I think, just situation 1. Okay, so situation 1 is the easiest case you can have. Tomorrow, I think we're going to do 2 and 3, and then Wednesday we'll do situation 4 and 5. Yeah. Yep. All right, so 5 situations, and each day we're going to add to this chart. Okay, I'll give you the situation, and we'll add to it. So tomorrow, I'm probably going to put situation 1 again on the guided notes, and we'll just fill it in from yesterday. Well, it'll be from today. But that way, by the end of the week, you'll have a full chart with all the different situations. All right, so the first type of situation that you can have, they give you a problem that already has the same number, same letter, opposite signs. They give it to you set up like that. Okay? All you have to do when they give you a problem that has same number, same letter, opposite sign, is just add the equations on. Okay? Just like we did right here. 2x plus 6x, 3y plus negative 3y, and 5 plus 11. You just add them vertically. Okay? And the hope is when you add them up, something will cancel out. All right, so let's try anything else. All right, so this is the template that we're going to use just to kind of organize our work. All right, so I'm going to show you, kind of how it works, and we'll label what each box is for. Okay, you guys, I don't think it's printed on your guided notes, so you need to copy down the example, and you need to write what's under 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so the equation that we're going to try to solve is x plus y equals 4, and negative x plus y equals negative 2. Now, you could solve this using any method that we've learned. Okay, you could try to graph it, you could try substitution, or you could try what we're going to do, which is elimination. Okay, so under number 1, the first thing it says is add the equations to eliminate. Are the variables lined up? Okay, is everything lined up? Okay, so what do you think? If you look at the 2 equations I gave you, are the x's lined up in a column? Are the y's lined up in a column? And then are just the numbers lined up?
What was the question?
So is everything lined up in these 2 equations?
Yes.
Yeah. The x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, and the numbers are lined up. Okay. I think we're going to do one later on where, okay, look at this one for a second. We're not doing it yet. But are the x's lined up the y's lined up and the numbers lined up in this one?
No.
No. So that one needs to be fixed. Okay, they're not lined up correctly. But this one, everything looks good. So what we're going to do is just copy these two equations into this box. But only copy them in if they're lined up. If they're not lined up, we're going to fix that off to the side. So we got x plus y equals 4. Negative x plus y equals negative 2. Okay, so that's your first thing. Okay, now what we're going to do is, see how there's this dotted arrow on the right-hand side? What that means is it's trying to remind you we're going to add things up vertically. Okay, so let's start with adding the x's. What's x plus negative x?
Negative 2x.
Well, if we had negative x plus negative x, that would be negative 2x.
0.
This is 0, right? Positive x combined with negative x. That's like 1x minus 1x. That's 0x. So there's no x's left. How about when we add the y's up? What's positive y plus positive y?
2y.
That's 2y. And now we have to add the numbers up on the other side. What's 4 plus negative 2?
2.
2. So that's what goes in the first box, just adding those up. Now we're going to copy this over to the next box just so we have some more room. Okay? 2y equals 2. What does the second step say to do?
So it's a variable that's left.
Yeah, solve for the variable that you have left. What's the variable we have left there?
2y.
Yeah, so the variable is y. We have to get rid of the 2 that's in front of the y. How do you get rid of that 2?
Divide on both sides.
Yep. And what do we divide both sides by? 2. 2. And 2. What's 2 divided by 2?
They cancel.
They cancel out because you get 1. Yeah. So now you have 1y equals. And what's going to go on the other side?
1.
1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. There we go. All right. Now, how many variables did we have in this problem when we started it? We had 2. How many have we found? We found 1. So we still have to find the other variable. This step is the same as last week. Take the variable that you just solved for and plug it into one of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one you use. I would pick whichever one you think is easier. So, do you guys want to plug the 1 back into the top equation or the bottom? The top. All right. So we're going to take the 1 and we're going to fill that in for what letter?
X. Y.
Y. Right? Because it's y equals 1. So you're filling in the 1 for the y. Let's put that right there. All right. And now let's put that in box 3. Can somebody tell me what's that going to look like when you fill 1 in for y?
X plus 1 equals 4.
Yeah. X plus 1 equals 4. Okay, so we did the plug-in part. Now what does the last part say to do?
Solve.
Solve. Yep. So now we got to solve it. How do you get x by itself in that equation?
Subtract 1 to both sides.
Subtract 1 on both sides. Plus 1 minus 1 is 0. So that's gone. So what's by itself on the left now?
X.
So x. And what do we get on the right side?
3.
3. All right, and that's how you solve a problem with elimination. Now, how can we see if those answers are right?
Plug both of the answers back into the equation.
Yeah, let's just plug them back in and see if they worked. So it says, let me copy them down. X plus y equals 4. And negative x plus y equals negative 2. So let's do the first one on the left. Eli, what did we get for x?
3.
We got 3. And what did we get for y? 1. Put a question mark. Hopefully it comes out right. And Sam, 3 plus 1 gives me
4.
4. So did those numbers work in the first equation?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they worked fine. All right, let's check them in the second one. Maddie, what did I get for x again?
3.
So we're going to fill in 3 for x. The negative stays right where it is. So we have negative, and then fill in 3. And what did we get for y? 1. And we're going to see if those numbers add up to negative 2. Okay. What's negative 3 plus 1?
-2.
Yep. And now you work on that side as well. So we know that those answers are right because we checked them. Any question on that? Now, these are both lines. If I were to draw them on the calculator, I'd get this would be my first line. This would be my second line. What would happen at the point 3, 1? That's exactly where they would intersect. Yeah, good. So this is one that you probably could have done graphing because the answer comes out nice. But we're not going to graph. All right, let's try one more and see if you guys can give me more of the steps, and then I'll have you guys do the last couple on your own. Okay. So example 1b. So it's x minus 2y equals 2, and 2x plus 2y equals 1. Okay, you want to write those above the box for now. Don't put them in the box yet. Because before they go in the box, what do we have to make sure?
That they line up.
We got to make sure they're lined up. Okay. All right. What do we looking for when they're lined up? Like how do you know if they're lined up?
Y equals mx plus b.
So we did do y equals mx plus b when we're graphing, but remember this week they're not going to be written y equals mx plus b. What's the format that we're looking for this week?
X.
Yep, so we're looking for something with an x.
X plus y.
Could be plus or a minus, depends on the problem.
Equals.
And then equals your number. Okay, that's the pattern you're looking for. An x, a plus or a minus, a y, an equals, and then a number. Are both these equations set up that way, or do we need to fix one of them?
They're both set up.
Yeah, they're both set up that way. So once we know that they're both set up that way, go ahead and copy them down. That'll be equation 1. And that's equation 2. Now, what do we do inside this box? And this is really like the elimination step. What do we do with those two equations?
Cross out the ones that are the same.
All right, because why are they going to cross out? What are we doing with this equation and this equation?
Oh no, we find the ones that are the right format. So like it's you cross out the negative 2y and then plus 2y.
And why do they cancel out? Like, because what are we going to do?
You're adding the same
We're gonna-
number.
We did what?
You're adding.
We're adding them.
Yeah.
So we're going to add the two equations together. So let's just go in order, column by column. Usually one of the letters will cancel out. Could be the X, could be the Y. Could be either one. Okay, so let's start with the first column. What do you get when you add up your X's?
3y. Forget. Like, no, 3x.
3X. Okay, what do you get when you add up your Y's?
They cancel.
They cancel, because that's negative 2Y plus 2Y. That's gone. Equals, and then what do you get? What do you get when you add up what's on the other side?
3.
3. So we have 3x equals 3. And what are we going to do with that 3x equals 3 so we have some more space now?
Divide. Put it in the next box.
Yeah, we're just going to copy that into the next box. And now what do we have to do in that box?
Solve it.
Yep. And what are you solving for?
X.
Yep. So we're going to solve for x.
And you're going to divide.
Yeah, what do we divide both sides by?
3.
3. Divide by 3. And divide by 3. So the 3's on the left cancel. And what do you get on the right for x? Yeah, perfect. You get 1. All right, now we were solving a system. So how many answers does that mean we need to find?
2.
2. Which answer do we have? So for which variable do we know?
X.
We know the x. We still need to find
Y.
y. Okay, so eventually we're going to figure out what y is. How do we use what we already found?
You plug it in.
Yep, plug it back in to which equation? Which one do you have to plug it back into to get the correct answer?
The top one. I'd say the second one.
So well, let me ask it this way. Which one of these could you use to get the correct answer?
Top.
You could.
Either.
Right? Either equation will give you the right answer. You want to try to pick the one that you think is easiest. Okay, but either one will work. So which one do we think is the easiest?
The second one.
The second one? All right. So we're going to take 1. And what letter are we going to fill that in for?
X.
We're going to fill that in for x. All right. Eric, can you tell me when you fill in 1 for x, what that bottom equation will look like?
It would have 2x plus 2y equals 1.
But what are we filling in for?
X.
Yep. And what number are you going to replace?
1.
Yep. So when you replace the x, what will it look like?
Oh, there's x.
Well, you're replacing the x. So x will be gone.
Oh, 1.
1. So 2 times 1. Yep.
Plus 2y. Equals 1.
Equal 1. Yep. Right. Now let's start to simplify it and see what we get. Lily, what's 2 times 1? 2. So 2 plus 2y equals 1. All right. What would be my next step?
Subtract.
Yep. And what would you subtract on both sides? Subtract 2 on both sides. All right. What does that leave me with on the left side?
2y.
2y. And how about on the right side? Negative 1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Okay, is y by itself? Not quite. We still have one more thing we got to do to get y alone.
Divide.
Yep. What are we going to divide each side by?
2.
So 2 and 2. So 2's cancel. And what do we get for y?
-1.
-1 and -2. Well, what does it say on the board? Y equals
At -1. 1/2.
-1/2. Yeah. There's your answer right there. Y equals -1/2. So if it comes out to a fraction, that's okay. It would mean it might. Not everything comes out to nice numbers all the time. All right. Any question on that one? I'm gonna have you guys try to do one that's going to be pretty similar. It's already going to be set up for you, so you're going to do pretty much the same kind of thing. All right, so you got -2x plus 3y equals 2, and 2x plus 7y equals 18. All right, so see if you can solve it, and then we'll walk around and just kind of check in, and if you guys get stuck, just let one of us know. All right, so let's take a look at this one together and see how people did. So first thing we check is if everything is lined up. Was everything lined up in this one? Yeah. So because it's lined up, we don't have anything we need to fix. Let's just copy them down. So -2x plus 3y equals 2. And I think some people, the mistake they made here is they just copied the second one wrong. A couple people, they just put 3y for the bottom one. It's 7y. So just be careful when you copy it. Okay, so always go back up and double check it. -2x plus 3y equals 2. Good. All right. Now, this vertical dotted line is there to remind you you're adding them up vertically. So let's add up the first column. What's -2x plus 2x?
0.
Yep, 0. So that's going to cancel. How about the next column? 3y plus 7y.
10.
10y. Yep. And you also have to do the last column. 2 plus 18. 20. Now, I'm just going to copy this so I have some more space. 10y equals 20. And now in this box, solve for the letter that you have left. Okay, one of your letters should be gone, and the other letter should be remaining.
And you get y equals 2.
Yep, how'd you get y equals 2?
Divide 10 then both sides.
Yep, divide both sides by 10. That's gone. And 20 divided by 10 gives you 2. Right, now, what letter do we still have to find?
X.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put X in that box. Okay, so I'm ready to write my answer. And how are we going to find X using the Y we just got?
Divide 20 by 10.
You would put in, you would fill in y2 and for 7y.
Yeah, you're going to fill in
So you would
2 for Y, and pick an equation you want to use.
I think 2 is easier since it's not negative.
The bottom one?
Yeah.
All right.
But just positives.
That's fine. So we can fill in 2. Now remember, everything else stays right where it is. Okay, so when I do it, the 2 stays where it is. So does the X. So does the 7. Leave room for what you're going to fill in, because we're not going to have a Y there anymore. We're going to change that to a number. Put the equals. And put the 18. What number is going to go in the parentheses right here?
2.
2, because we're changing Y to 2. Right, now we solve it. All right, so 2x. What's 7 times 2?
14.
14. Okay, next step to get x by itself.
Minus 14.
Minus the 14 on both sides. That's gone. So now we have 2x. What's 18 minus 14?
4.
4. And my last step to get x by itself.
Divide by 2 on both sides.
Perfect. Divide by 2 on both sides. And 4 divided by 2 gives me
2.
2. And there's both your answers. Okay, you can check them. It's always good for you to check them, especially on a test, so you can figure out if you made a mistake before I figure out if you made a mistake. But we're not going to check it because it didn't say to. All right. Any question on that? All right. So the last time. Okay. Everything in the last 3 problems already had the first step done for us. Okay. Remember what the first step is. Is it lined up? Okay, that's the first thing we have to check. Now, we're going to try, in the last 2 problems, we're going to have to line things up first. Okay. So here's example 2a. We're still going to use the same kind of template, but don't fill in anything for equation 1 and 2 yet. Just copy them down up above the box. Okay, plenty of space above it. Okay. Can someone remind me again, what's the pattern we're looking for? How do the equations have to look? What always comes first?
The x.
The x, yep. And what's going to always come right after the x?
Plus or minus.
Could be a plus or a minus.
Y.
Then a y.
And equal number.
Then it equals, and then a number. Do either one of those equations look like this?
No.
Yeah.
Well, right, yeah. One of them.
Which one?
Bottom one.
Yeah, the bottom one. So you can copy the bottom one down for equation 2. That one's fine. Because you have a number with x, a number with y, and then equals a number. Okay, equation 1, that's not working. So we got to fix that, and we're going to do it off to the side before we put it in the equation 1 box. Okay, so let's just write it down. What's wrong with it? Why doesn't it look like what we want? What do we have to fix to make it look like what we want?
You need to switch the equal 60 with the plus 2.
Okay, so in terms of so there's something we got to move to the left side. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So what needs to move to the left?
Equal 60.
I think we want to keep the equal 16 on the right? Because we want to always make sure that it's equal to a number. So that part we want to keep on the right. What's the part that needs to go to the left of the equal sign? Right, whatever the y term is, that needs to be on the left side, right after the x term. What's our y term in this case?
Plus 2y.
It's a plus 2y. We don't want it on the same side with the number. We want to put it on the left. So how would you put the plus 2y on the left side?
Subtract it by both sides.
Yep. Subtract it on both sides. And if you do that, what do you have on the left side now?
4x minus 2y
4x minus 2y. And what do you have on the right side?
equals 16.
Equals 16. And those cancel out. Perfect. Now why don't we subtract the 4x and the 2y? Why don't we put those together?
Because they have different letters.
Yeah, they have different letters. They're not like terms. You can't put them together. Now, look at what we have there. That's equation 1, but we've rearranged it. Is that how we want it to look?
Yes.
Yes. Now you can copy it in the box. And when you look at it at first, you might say, well, I don't see anything there that has same letter, same number, opposite signs. When you look at the original. But how about when you look at after we fixed it? Do you see anything that has the same letter, same number, and opposite signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, which one?
The positive and negative 2.
The positive and negative 2
Why?
y. So what happens when you add them up?
They cross each other out.
Yeah, they cancel each other. Alright, so the positive 2y and negative 2y are going to be gone. Alright. And Eli, how about if I add my x's?
You get 10x.
Yep, we get 10x equals. And Zach, what if I add my numbers on the other side?
That'll be 30.
Perfect. So we get 10x equals 30, and now it's going to be just like the first few problems we did. Copy that into the other box. And what letter are we going to be solving for in that box?
You're solving for x.
Yep. Solve for x. And what do you do on both sides to get x alone?
Divide by 10.
Perfect. Divide by 10. And 30 divided by 10 gives me 3. Yep. Okay. So we have x. We still need to find
Why?
y. So let's just get that ready. And which equation should we plug back into? The top one or the bottom one?
The bottom one.
Okay, we can do the bottom one. So x equals 3. And we're going to fill that in right there. Okay, so remember, when you fill it in, everything stays the same except the one thing you're going to plug in for. So can somebody read this equation to me, but fill in the 3 for x?
It would be 18.
So just so people know, how did you get that?
3 times 6
Yep, so 6 times 3
plus 2y equals 14.
plus 2y equals 14.
So you would solve for this first. So 18 to and you would divide 2 to 14 on both sides.
So division, we are going to do division, but that's going to be the last thing. Something we need to do before the division.
Add subtract first.
Subtract.
18 from 13. You would get -4.
So subtract the 18 on both sides. 2y equals -4. Now the division.
And 9 units would be -2.
Divide each side by 2 and by 2. And what's -4 divided by 2?
-2.
Perfect. So just because we didn't get any fractions, that doesn't guarantee we did the problem the right way. But it's always nice when we don't get fractions for answers. So usually the second box takes up more work, right? It's a few more arithmetic steps. And the middle box is usually very short, at least for these problems. It'll be a little different tomorrow. Okay, any question on that? All right, the last one, have you guys try. So example 2b at the bottom of the notes. Remember, don't fill anything in for equation 1 and equation 2 till you're sure they're in the right format.
This was different.
Okay, is there an equation there that is already in the right format?
Yeah.
Which one?
Another one.
Yep, the top one. So you can put that one in if you want. Okay. Is the bottom one in the right format?
No.
All right, so let me just help you guys get that in the right format, and then I'll let you solve it. Something's on the wrong side in the bottom.
And negative 3.
The negative what?
3 y.
Negative 3y. That's on the wrong side. What side should it be on?
Left.
Yeah, it should be on the left. How do you move that?
Just minus 3. No, plus 3. Sorry, plus 3.
Plus 3y.
Plus 3y. And plus 3y. So that's gone. Now, what do you have on the left side?
7x plus 3y.
Okay, so let's write that down. 7x plus 3y. And what do you have on the right side?
19.
19. So that's the only extra step. So now, why don't you guys see if you can solve it for x and y, and then we'll go over it. That's the last one. Okay, so we got to the point where the x's, the y's, and the numbers are lined up. Which letters are going to cancel out?
The negative 3y.
Yep, and
Positive 3y.
so that cancels. And now you add whatever's left. What's 4x plus 7x? 11x. And what's 3 plus 19?
22.
22. Okay, I'm going to copy that into the second box so I have some more space. 11x equals 22. And what letter am I solving for?
X.
Solving for x. And how do you get x by itself?
Divide 11 on both sides.
Divide 11 on both sides, and that does come out nice. What's 22 divided by 11?
2.
2. Okay, so we got a nice answer for that. Which equation do we want to plug back into?
I did number 2.
You did the second one?
Yes.
All right. Doesn't matter which one, as long as you, you know what, actually I'm just going to draw an arrow to it. Let's see, take x equals 2, and you plugged it back into the bottom. Okay, so we have 7 times 2, plus what comes after that?
3y.
3y, and equals what number?
19.
19. Okay, what's 7 times 2?
14.
So 14, good. All right, what do you do next?
Then I subtracted 14.
Yep.
On both sides.
Subtract 14 on both sides. What's 19 minus 14?
5.
5. All right, and then when we get y by itself, what do we do on both sides?
Divide 3 on both sides.
Yep. And for a fraction, we get 5 divided by 3. That's okay. No need to change that to a decimal, just leave it as 5 divided by 3. Okay, so for tonight, homework is the 5.3 part 1 worksheet. And remember, we'll have our third test for the term on Friday. And I plan to be after school on Thursday.